Okay, Superman and Lois. Gotta be honest, I really don't know how you do a show like this. With this version of Superman, I really don't. The Arrowverse writers spent several years worth of guest appearances just cucking this poor bastard into oblivion, and that seemed to suit them just fine when they were putting all their eggs in Supergirl's basket, but fast forward a little bit, Supergirl's getting cancelled, Superman has to carry his own show, and now the fact that we've made this guy about as cool and useful as used toilet paper is suddenly kind of a big problem. And now it might be dawning on them that, oh crap, maybe shooting Superman in the knees before he even got out of the gate and using him as nothing but a weak-ass beta male foil to make Supergirl look better by comparison wasn't as great of an idea as we thought. So what happens here? Will they course correct? Or will they just double down on the cuck of steel and damn the consequences? I don't have high hopes, but it's time to find out. Let's dive into Superman and Lois. Okay, the short version is, there's been a course correction. I don't know if it's the course correction they need just yet, but pretty quickly you can tell the creators came at this with a feeling of, we need to take this seriously. Like, more seriously than we have been. We used to treat this character like the butt of a joke, but now we need him to make us money, so let's not screw around here. And so, maybe for the first time in Arrowverse Superman's existence, he's actually being treated with some dignity. I have to admit, it was a refreshing change. And no one was more shocked about this than I was. There are some issues, though. I guess it wouldn't be a Greg Berlanti show if there wasn't a healthy dose of retcons, and they start dishing those out immediately. The first one involves the kids. Clark and Lois have gone from having one infant son to two teenage sons. The second son was created in the new universe. We learned that at the end of the Crisis crossover last year. But we also learned that Clark's memories are that of the previous universe, the previous timeline. When Lois called him at the end of the crossover and mentioned the boys, he didn't even know that he had two boys. So outside of changing baby Jonathan's diapers, he had no memory of these kids. And that's retcon number 2, because one of the first things they do here is show us that Clark does remember these kids now. He remembers their whole lives, watching them grow up, being their dad for 14 years, even though they've only existed since the crossover ended. Why did Jonathan magically age to a teenager for no reason? Where does brother Jordan come from? Why does Clark remember their whole lives now when he didn't remember that the last time we saw him? Never explained. It also makes the ages of these characters really messed up. Do the writers not understand that Tyler Hoechlin looks way too damn young to have teenage kids? Did Clark conceive these little shits when he was fucking 12? It sticks out like a sore thumb, so much so that they had to throw a line in there to explain away how ridiculous it was. Wow, Clark, you haven't aged a day since high school. Must be good genes. Wink. Note to the producers. If you have to write dialogue for the characters to explain why your casting choices don't make sense, it doesn't mean you're being clever, it means you probably should have made different choices. Now, I'm sure most people will chalk this up to the universe getting a soft reboot after Crisis, but the thing is, they made it very clear that Oliver was the one who created the new universe, so any changes are attributed to him. And in a lot of cases, it just doesn't make sense that Oliver would change something. Why would he age Jonathan 14 years? Why would he give John a twin brother from out of nowhere? Why would he change any of these things? Beats the hell out of me. Now you may think I'm being too nitpicky, but I don't think I am. Because when inexplicable changes like this start popping up, and there are some pretty big ones here, it just goes to show that the writers didn't think ahead, never really had a plan for any of this, and are using the new universe as a free pass to make whatever random-ass changes they want, whether they make any sense or not. And turns out, most of them really don't. More on that later. The show begins with a montage where Clark gets everybody up to speed on his life and his origin. Pa Kent dying when he was a teenager, marrying Lois, having twins, and so on. Jonathan's a chip off the old block, but Jordan is challenging and has social anxiety. And I'll say this for a first impression. The show looks good. It feels very Man of Steel-esque in terms of how it's shot cinematically and the interpersonal dialogue and stuff, and that's actually not a bad thing. Looks like they're making an effort to get away from the cutesy-poo Supergirl style of doing things and grow up a little bit. And I didn't see a lot of identity politics on display here. That's certainly a plus as well. Also, General Lane is back. If you've seen the Supergirl videos, you can probably guess how I feel about this. They have recast the actor, and his personality is completely different now. I guess Oliver did that too. But why would he do it? Why would he randomly change Lois's dad? No idea, and they don't explain it, but he's basically a completely new character now, and retcon number 3 aside, that's a welcome change. Anyway, there's some nuclear reactor melting down, so the General summons Superman with some gizmo he keeps on him. Superman shows up, he fixes the leak, he freezes some ocean water into a giant block of ice and uses that to cool the reactor down. Crisis averted. Alright, Superman did something cool and heroic. He didn't get cucked or fall flat on his face so Supergirl could save the day instead. We're off to a pretty good start here. Him and the General talk afterward. Clark says the leak in the reactor was man-made. The General remarks that he's been putting in a lot of superhero overtime lately. They seem to get along fairly well in this new incarnation, and the General knows Clark's secret identity, so no need to make that a thing. But most importantly, the General appears to not be an intractable, belligerent asshole anymore. Thank you. So Clark comes home. Lois says he missed a therapy session with Jordan, so he checks on the boys. John is going to be the starting QB on the varsity football team as a freshman, despite school not even starting until tomorrow. Not sure how that works. And Jordan is an antisocial, burgeoning edgelord who thinks Superman is boring, given that until now he's only existed so he could tell anyone who would listen how much better Supergirl is than him. That's not surprising. Then Clark calls his mom. She tells him he's been burning candles at both ends with the superhero stuff lately and he needs to be around more for his family, and his life is a lot more complicated than theirs were back in Smallville. The next morning after the twins go to school, Clark and Lois talk about things with Jordan being difficult, and maybe they should tell the boys that he's Superman. Lois wants to tell them, but Clark's against it. They think John is going to have powers for sure because he's such a star athlete, but Jordan doesn't show signs of anything, and if they came clean, this might make Jordan feel more alien than he does already. I like that they're trying to show both sides of the argument, but I'm definitely with Lois on this one. If either of them have powers, wouldn't you want them to be prepared in the event that things get weird? Clark seems to think that by not telling them, they can somehow prevent the twins from getting powers altogether, and they can just avoid the whole thing, which is kind of dumb. So they go to work, and they find out that Morgan Edge has bought the Daily Planet, and Clark has been laid off. That's about all the lip service this plot point gets. They really couldn't get away from the planet fast enough. It's kind of annoying, actually. Then Clark gets a call from a doctor and flies to Smallville, but he's too late. Ma Kent has died from a stroke. It's like they're going out of their way to not use any of Superman's supporting cast that people might be tuning in to see. I don't get it. We're pretty much moving to Smallville permanently now, but we already had a long-running Superman show based in Smallville, and it sucked. Why would you want to go back to that? So they have a funeral. Lana Lang shows up with her family. John apparently had a bit of a thing with her daughter Sarah one summer a while back, but she's since gone through puberty, and now she's got Jordan's attention. There's some family stuff that's not terribly interesting. Lana's husband Kyle is a bit of a dick. Everyone else in their class moved away from Smallville, and he's got a chip on his shoulder about it. And Morgan Edge is retrofitting the coal mines in town to produce alternative energy. And that's confusing. What, is a coal mine gonna start producing solar power now? How does that work? Don't know. But Lois is suspicious since Edge ruins everything he touches, like the Daily Planet, Clark's job, though the whole thing sounds good to Kyle, and he isn't all that sympathetic about their problems. Also, Ma Kent had some business with the bank that they'll need to talk about later. Over in the barn, the twins and Sarah are looking for the router because the cell service sucks. And John is being kinda sorta flirty with her, but in a cool and aloof way because he's already got a girlfriend. but Sarah seems way more into Jordan and invites him to some bonfire tomorrow. Then they find the router in the most inconvenient and dangerous spot imaginable, way up in the rafters, so Jordan climbs up to fix it, slips and falls about 30 feet, and knocks a bunch of steel beams loose so they all fall on top of him. And John tries to save him, but he just gets crushed by the beams too. So Clark runs out to save the boys, but they're both miraculously okay. They just have mild concussions. But this starts to weird Jordan out because they really shouldn't have survived that, while John is more perturbed that he might not be starting QB anymore due to missing practice for a few days. It's not hard to see which of the twins the writers are more invested in, and to the shock of nobody, it's not the one who's a character in the comics. Lois and Clark have another conversation about telling the boys the truth. Lois figures they can't avoid this anymore, at least one of them has to have powers or else they'd both be dead, but they're thinking it's John. And Clark thinks that would just make Jordan feel worse, since everything else always comes easily to John, and he doesn't want to lose Jordan and blah blah blah. It's more or less the same conversation, but they have it several times. Then the general shows up. He's analyzed security footage from the reactor and found a shot of someone moving at super speed and also some etching in Kryptonian, which is basically daring Clark to come find whoever wrote it. You're not a hero, Kal-El. As of Crisis on Infinite Earths, I would have agreed with that, but come on, guys. We're trying to change the perception of Supercuck here, and stuff like this doesn't help. The general wants Clark to check this out, but Lois puts the brakes on because Clark's family needs him more than the world does right now, and Clark agrees. So if another nuclear reactor melts down, I guess everyone in the surrounding area is just... The general, to his credit, and can't believe I just said that, points out that Lois married Superman, and Superman doesn't get to have a normal life. And not only does he have a point, but he does not act like a dick about it. And I have to say, we don't see much of him this week, but this new version of General Lane is a vast improvement over the old one. This new one is a little gruff, sure, but he acts like an actual normal person for the most part. I was actually able to get through the whole episode without wanting to shoot him in the head. Where's the Arrowverse been hiding this guy for the last 6 years? So our new Lana Lang works at a bank, which seems like a really boring idea to me, but I'll take boring in a heartbeat over anything related to the Kristen Kruk version. Martha Kent had a reverse mortgage on the farm, so Clark can either pay that off or accept a buyout and have enough money to put the twins through college. And since Clark just became unemployed, you'd think this would be a pretty easy decision, but it's not. Before she died, his mom told him to come home. But why come home just to sell the farm, Clark wonders. But Lois thinks maybe she wanted him to save the farm. And also, the whole loan situation smells really fishy to her. Meanwhile, the twins are looking around the barn because Jordan thinks there's something their dad isn't telling them. They happen upon a locked cellar door, and down there is Clark's spaceship. It reacts to Jordan's touch and spits out some orange gem thing, but that doesn't factor into anything else this week. So they confront their parents. Clark finally has to tell them the truth. Jordan thinks it's bullshit. We've seen Superman, you're nothing like him. So Clark takes his glasses off, and he's like, surprise, bitch! I look totally different now. And then he lifts a truck off the ground and flies with it. And I like how they handle the reactions here, because the boys do not take this well. Jordan's really upset about his parents lying to him his whole life, making him think he was crazy because he always felt different and having to go on pills and stuff. It's not as simple as, wow, my dad's the cuck of steel! Awesome! It's messy and it's complicated. It feels like a very human reaction, and that's a lot more than I expected from this, honestly. And John's kind of pissed off too, but his reaction is a lot less important. So Jordan basically calls Clark a shitty father. Clark wonders if he's right and blames himself for everything falling apart. But then his super hearing picks up trouble at another nuclear plant, and I guess his family doesn't need him now because Lois tells him it's okay to go deal with that, and he takes off. Seems pretty arbitrary when his family needs him and when they don't, but whatever. Clark flies to another nuclear plant, and there's a voice there talking to him who claims to have some kind of history with Clark where he comes from. Clark says he got the message and figures out that this person has been causing trouble at nuclear facilities because the walls are lead-lined, and that means he can observe Clark without getting found by Clark's X-ray vision. And then Clark immediately finds him with his X-ray vision. So are the walls lead-lined or not? They said they were, but then Clark saw through them anyway. I don't know what happened here. So Clark smashes through the wall, there's some dude in an Iron Man suit there, and they fight. Meanwhile, Jordan takes an Uber to some rock quarry where the bonfire is, and he meets Sarah there. They seem to have a lot in common. She can relate to him really well because he's on pills, and she took a bunch of her mom's pills a while ago and ended up in therapy just like him. And depression and mental illness seem to really get Jordan's motor running, so he kisses her. And is that too soon? Of course, it's way too fucking soon. And it's a pleasant surprise when the episode understands that too. Sarah pulls away. I have a boyfriend, dude, WTF! The boyfriend gets pissed off. He tries to start some shit. John shows up, tries to protect Jordan, a big fight breaks out, and we start cutting between this and Superman flying all over the place as he fights Armor Guy, and I didn't notice it until now, but they did not do the actor any favors with the Superman costume, because it looks like they've artificially puffed it up, like padded the suit to make him appear more muscular than he really is. It looks really, really fake. And it's unintentionally funny, too, because suddenly his head is disproportionate to his body. I have trouble taking him seriously now. All I can think is, dude, why is your head so fucking small? I can't watch you with a straight face now. And I appreciate them wanting him to look more like you'd think Superman should look, but this is not the way. Henry Cavill, this guy is not. Just tell him to hit the weights or something. So they're fighting in the upper atmosphere. The twins are getting beat to shit by small-town hicks. Armor Guy says Clark tries to pretend he's one of them, but he's not. Jordan's on the ground watching John get pummeled. Armor Guy says Clark is just a lost child desperate for the love of a people that will never accept him. Jordan's eyes light up. He shoots heat vision into the bonfire and makes it explode. And Armor Guy stabs Clark with kryptonite and he drops out of the sky. Lois sees trouble at the bonfire on the news, so she summons Clark with the same gizmo her dad used earlier. Then Clark just pulls the kryptonite out, and suddenly he's fine. That seemed way too easy to me. If he can do that, why doesn't he just get rid of kryptonite that way all the time? At the very least, it should have been a lot more painful for him to rip that thing out with his bare hands. So he races to the quarry. Kyle's the fire chief. He took care of the emergency, so maybe he's not that big of a dick after all. John's fine, but Jordan's pretty shaken up. And astonishingly, not a single person there saw the two big glowing laser beams shoot out of his eyes. Don't ask me how. So Clark and Lois talk to Jordan. Turns out that when the steel beams fell, he actually rolled John over and protected him. Clark admits Lois was right and he should have told the boys the truth a long time ago, and then he realizes what Ma Kent was trying to tell him. That when she told him to come home, what she really meant was that he should come home. No shit, Sherlock. Now Clark thinks they should move to Smallville and live on the farm. Lois likes that idea, and I think it's stupid. Why are you taking Superman away from the place fans will want him to be? We want to see him at the Daily Planet with Perry White and all those people. The small-town Superman thing, it's been done. Having Clark at the planet would actually be a change of pace now. Clark has a heart-to-heart with Jordan, admits Jordan was right about him not being around enough, but he promises that he will be from now on, and things are good with them again for the time being. Yay. So they tell Lana they're keeping the farm. Lois mentions that a few months before the bank started handing out reverse mortgages, it was bought by Galaxy Holdings, whose majority shareholder is Morgan Edge, and Lana, who actually works at the bank, was completely clueless about that somehow. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Sarah tells the twins that her dad wrote the explosion off as a methane pocket, so their secret is safe for now. Jordan apologizes for kissing her. It's cool though, she just thought that if someone as sweet as him had issues, then someone like her might not be so messed up. Don't really care. The twins talk about Jordan having powers and John not having powers, and John is surprisingly okay with it. He's not bothered at all. This just means my skills on the field are legit, John says. It's almost shocking how well-adjusted he is. I don't know why they think John won't develop powers in the future all of a sudden, though. The writers are going to run out of things to do with him if they just keep him normal. So I expect John's going to have powers of some kind probably by the end of the season. Otherwise, why is he even there? Unless they want to turn him into a Lex Luthor type and have him do lots of science-based stuff instead. He doesn't really seem like the type for that, though. So Clark and Lois talk to the boys about staying in Smallville, then they go into the barn so Clark can show them how to attach a plow to a tractor. Oh boy, farming. Exactly what I was hoping a Superman show would be about. Then we cut to the Arctic, or someplace really cold. Armor Guy arrives at some spaceship. He takes off his helmet to reveal that he's a black man, and the ship's AI calls him Captain Luthor. That's our final retcon of the night, and it's a pretty big one. Why is Lex like this now? Post-Crisis on Infinite Earths, Jon Cryer was still Lex Luthor in this universe. But now Lex is totally different? Now Lex is black all of a sudden? Why? How? If you want to cast Lex as black, I don't really have an issue with that, but you can't just change whatever the hell you want for no reason, especially when you already set it up as something else. It doesn't make sense. I'm probably giving them way too much credit here, but I suppose the writers did leave themselves room to say that this Lex is not Arrowverse Lex, that he might be a different Lex from a different universe or something. That would explain it, I guess. Will that be how they explain it, though? Will they explain it at all? I'm skeptical. That was Superman and Lois, and retcons aside, this could have been worse. Frankly, I was expecting worse. Let's be honest, the Arrowverse's treatment of Superman prior to this show really didn't give them a great starting point. But it's possible the writers may have realized that. I did get the sense of them attempting some damage control here. Lois wasn't checking out other men in front of her husband, and I'm not 100% confident that the writers are serious about trying to de-Cuckify Clark, but now that Supergirl isn't around and doesn't constantly need to be made to look better by comparison, Superman actually gets a little respect here. Certainly more than he was getting the last time we saw him. He was treated like a hero for the most part. It wasn't totally seamless, though. They did make him look lame in one scene. Cool suit! Thanks! My mom made it for me! Also, the fake muscles in the suit look kinda ridiculous. It's obvious they're fake, guys. You're not fooling anyone. And how the hell's he supposed to be more powerful than a locomotive when his head is so fucking small? However, if they're making a genuine effort to turn Arrowverse Superman into a character that's not a woke agenda-driven embarrassment, that's not lame as hell, that will not make Angry Joe want to hang himself, then this wasn't a terrible beginning, all things considered. More character surgery needs to be done, yeah, a lot of it, but I did feel like the writers were trying, in their own way, to do right by Supes here, even if they're still being misguided about it. The cast is fine, I guess. No one blew me away here. I still think Tyler Hoechlin looks way too damn young, and it seems like they intentionally made Lana Lang as dull as possible, but I don't see any weak links yet. And the jury is still out on the twins. They seem like competent actors, and they weren't annoying at any point, but there's potential for that in the future, I think, so it's something to keep an eye on. The script was passable. It was pretty basic, and there were no real surprises. I think taking Clark out of Metropolis is dumb. You could see the Jordan twist coming a mile away, and there were a lot of the requisite plot holes and inconsistencies that you're going to find in pretty much any Arrowverse show. That's nothing new. But compared to the other shows, this was probably on the upper end of good in that department. I mean, sure, the bar was set low, but at least they reached it. Something that did bug me was the focus of the show. There's a lot of focus on the family, and not as much on superhero stuff as you might think. In fact, it feels more like a family drama than a superhero show, which is not really what you watch a Superman show for. I was kind of bored by a lot of that stuff. Not that it was bad exactly, I just didn't care. So this wasn't perfect by any stretch, and they do not get a pass on all those retcons, but it was certainly better than I thought it would be. If they can continue veering away from the path the Supergirl writers put this guy on, they might have a shot at a decent Superman and a decent show here. But it's the CW, it's the Arrowverse, and it's Greg Berlanti, so will they screw it up? Yeah, probably. That's your review of the Superman and Lois premiere. Whether I do more of these will depend on the views this video gets, so if you want more, you know what to do. Leave a comment to help me fight off the algorithm, ding the bell for notifications, and follow me on social media so you'll always know when I upload new stuff. The link is down there. Like, share, subscribe, make sure you're still subscribed, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Until then, you guys take care, do all the YouTube things, and I'll see you next time.